The FIM-92 Stinger Seeker head chirps a high-pitched, steady lock. The gunner feels the vibration through the grip. Trigger pulled. The chemical slug ignites, and the missile clears the tube at 1,500 miles per hour. It pulls a 20G turn, tracking the friction heat generated by an Iranian Shahed drone. A fireball erupts 500 yards off the starboard rail, raining fiberglass into the swell. But the ANS-Pi-1D radar screen isn't clearing. 114 separate blips have just crossed the 12-mile limit. To the east, the UK's Sea Viper missiles are already screaming off the rails of HMS Duncan at Mach 4. Below deck, the Mark 115 Phalanx CIWS spins up to 4,500 rounds per minute. Its 20mm Gatling gun spitting a wall of tungsten at the low-altitude swarm. Every intercept costs $1.5 million. Every incoming drone costs $35,000. If you throw enough low-cost targets at a high-value defense, the math eventually breaks. They launch 60 fast attack craft and 100 loitering munitions simultaneously. It's a desperate scramble to keep the kill chain from collapsing. Britain responds first, rushing 1,000 troops to the region in a high-stakes deployment. They are sending the Skysaber air defense system. The Skysaber is a digital predator. Its radar can track a target the size of a tennis ball moving at the speed of sound from 75 meters away. In the opening minutes of the engagement, the Skysaber launches the Landscepter missile. The Landscepter uses active radar homing. It doesn't need the ground station to paint the target for it. It thinks for itself. As the Iranian drone swarm crosses the 12-mile limit, the British batteries fire in rapid succession. The cost of each missile is roughly $1 million. The cost of the drone it destroys is $35,000. To win, we have to spend our way into bankruptcy, or we have to find a more efficient way to kill. On the water, HMS Duncan, a Type 45 destroyer, acts as the coalition's quarterback.
Its Samson radar sits 100 feet above the waterline, scanning the horizon for the sea-skimming NOR anti-ship missiles. The HMS Duncan is equipped with the Sea Viper missile system. In a span of 30 seconds, the destroyer ripple fires 8 interceptors. The sky over the strait turns into a grid of white smoke and orange flashes, but the swarm is too large. 2 drones slip through the British screen. They are heading for a commercial tanker. We often talk about these ships and missiles as if they are abstract numbers on a budget sheet, but right now, there are 50,000 Americans and 1,000 British troops sitting in a heat watching a radar screen and waiting for a blip that could end their day or their lives. For many of you watching, those aren't just troops. They are your sons, your daughters, or the buddies you served with in the same waters 20 or 30 years ago. The hardware has changed, but the pit in your stomach when the alarm sounds is exactly the same. If you've spent time on the line or have family out there right now, drop a comment below. Let's remind people who is actually behind these machines. The US doesn't do small responses. We have surged 50,000 troops into the theater. This is a massive logistical footprint designed to turn the Persian Gulf into a controlled environment. At the heart of this wall are the Arleigh Burke-class destroyers. These ships are the most capable multi-mission platforms in history, but today they are being pushed to the breaking point. The USS Carney detects the 2 drones that bypass the British screen. The ship's ASP-1D radar identifies them as high-priority threats. The captain has 2 seconds to decide. He doesn't use the million-dollar missiles. He selects the Mark 115 Phalanx close-in weapon system. The Phalanx is a 20mm Gatling gun that fires 4,500 rounds per minute. It creates a wall of lead in the path of the incoming drone.
The 20mm armor-piercing tungsten subprojectiles shred the first drone at 500 yards. The second drone, however, has a more sophisticated flight profile. It dips low using the wave clutter to hide from the radar. It impacts the side of a coalition support ship. The explosion isn't enough to sink the vessel, but it's a hard-win moment. The deck is on fire. Sailors are scrambling. The enemy has drawn blood. The invincibility of NATO air defense has been punctured. This isn't a recruitment video anymore. This is a war of attrition. The US counters with the RIM 174 Standard Extended Range Active Missile. This is the Swiss Army knife of the Navy's arsenal. It can hit a plane, a boat, or even a ballistic missile in its terminal phase. We fire 4 SM-6 missiles from the vertical launch cells. These missiles travel at 2,600 miles per hour. They don't just hit the targets, they vaporize them through sheer kinetic energy release. But for every missile we fire, the Iranians launch another dozen drones from hidden sites along the coast. While the destroyers are fighting the loud war, Navy SEALs and Delta Force are fighting the quiet one. The goal is to stop the swarm at the source. SEAL Team 6 operators deploy from a combat and craft assault. The CCA is a stealthy, high-speed boat that sits low in the water, making it nearly invisible to Iranian coastal radar. The operators are equipped with Glock 19 sidearms and Sig Sauer MCX Rattler carbines, but their primary weapon today is C4 plastic explosive. They dive into the dark, oil-slicked waters of the Gulf. Their target, a series of Iranian smart mines anchored in the shipping lanes. These mines aren't passive. They use acoustic sensors to identify the signature of a U.S. aircraft carrier and detonate only when a high-value target is overhead. The SEALs use underwater handheld sonar to locate the mooring cables. Working in total darkness, they attach demolition charges to the sensors. One operator feels the vibration of an Iranian fast attack boat passing just 20 feet above his head. If he's spotted, there is no backup. This is a high-stakes tactical gamble. At the same time, Delta Force teams are executing sensitive site exploitation on a small island used by the IRGCN as a drone command center. They fast rope from an MH-60M Blackhawk under the cover of electronic jamming provided by an EA-18 Growler. The Growler floods the enemy's frequencies with white noise, blinding their communications. The Delta operators move through the compound with clinical precision. They are there to seize hard drives and destroy the satellite uplinks. They have 6 minutes before the Iranian Quds Force quick reaction team arrives. The coalition realizes that playing defense is a losing game. This is where the air war turns the tide, but it is anything but easy. The Iranians have moved S-300 and Babur 373 surface-to-air missile batteries into the jagged mountains overlooking the strait. To break this, the U.S. launches the F-35C Lightning II from the deck of the USS Gerald R. Ford. The F-35C acts as a project manager in the sky. Its computer system fuses data from the HMS Duncan, the SEAL teams on the ground, and satellite imagery to create a 360-degree God view of the battlefield. It assigns the best weapon to kill them. The F-35C identifies the radar signature of an S-300 battery. Instead of flying into the teeth of the defense, the pilot releases an AGM-154 joint standoff weapon. The JSAW is a glide bomb with a range of 70 miles. It follows a GPS-guided path contouring to the terrain to avoid detection. It impacts the radar van of the S-300, decapitating the enemy's air defense. With the eyes of the enemy blinded, we send in the heavy hitters. The A-10 Thunderbolt II enters the fray. For the veterans in the audience, this is the sound of victory. The A-10 is built around the GAU-8 Avenger 30mm cannon.
This gun is the size of a Volkswagen Beetle and fires depleted uranium shells at a rate of 3,900 rounds per minute. An Iranian swarm of 15 fast attack boats is attempting to box in a NATO frigate. The A-10 pilot rolls into a 30-degree dive. He centers the lead boat in his heads-up display. He squeezes the trigger for a 2-second burst. The sound is the last thing the enemy hears. The 30mm rounds shred the fiberglass holes and detonate the fuel tanks. In 3 passes, the swarm is reduced to burning wreckage and oil slicks. But the A-10 is slow. An Iranian man-portable air defense system fires a heat-seeking missile from a hidden position on a coastal cliff. The missile tracks the A-10's massive twin engines. The pilot punches flares, burning magnesium pellets that burn hotter than the engine to decoy the missile. The missile explodes just 10 feet from the tail. The A-10 survives because it is essentially a flying tank with a titanium bathtub protecting the pilot, but it's forced to aggress. The wind is getting harder. As the sun sets, the Iranians believe the darkness will give their fast boats an advantage. The AC-130OJ Ghost Rider gunship arrives on station. The AC-130OJ sits at 10,000 feet, circling the target area. It is equipped with a 30mm GAU-23A autocannon and a 105mm M102 howitzer. Using high-definition infrared sensors, the crew of the Ghost Rider sees the heat signatures of the Iranian crews attempting to reload drone launchers on the coast. The 105mm howitzer fires. This is a weapon usually found on a tank, now mounted to the side of a 14 cargo plane. The shell impacts the launcher with the force of a high-speed train hitting a brick wall. There is no near miss with a 105mm round. The kinetic release is absolute. To support the ground teams, the AC-130OJ also drops GBU-39 small-diameter bombs. These are 250-pound precision-guided munitions that can glide for 40 meters.
They hit specific targets, ammunition crates, fuel bladders, communication nodes, with a circular arrow probable of less than 3 feet. Here is the additional beat formatted in place between Beat 5 and Act 3. It focuses on the integrated defense systems mentioned in the sources, maintaining the hard wind structure with a mix of technical and dramatic styles. The engagement reaches its fever pitch as the Iranian coastal batteries realize their fast attack craft have been decimated. They play their final card, a coordinated volley of Sumar cruise missiles. These are not drones. They move at 500 miles per hour, hugging the wavetops to stay below the radar. This is the moment the British Sky Harbor was rushed to the theater to prevent. On the ground, the British Giraffe AM radar, the eyes of the Sky Harbor system, is spinning at 60 revolutions per minute. It identifies the incoming threat 60 miles out. The technical logic of NATO's Link 16 data network takes over. The American Arleigh Burke destroyers provide the long-range tracking data, feeding it directly into the British firing units. The Americans see it, but the British will kill it. The Sky Harbor launches the Land Scepter, also known as the CAM. The launch is cold. A compressed air piston ejections the missile 30 feet into the air before the rocket motor ignites. This prevents the launch site from being instantly targeted by enemy infrared sensors. The first Land Scepter streaks toward a Sumar missile. At 10 miles out, the Iranian missile executes a pre-programmed Jin maneuver, diving even lower. The British system compensates in microseconds. The Land Scepter uses active secret technology, meaning it doesn't need to be guided by the ground radar anymore. The two missiles collide 5 miles from the coalition's primary fuel depot. The explosion is a blinding white sphere on the infrared monitors, but the win is hard. A second Sumar is detected late due to a malfunctioning NATO sensor node.